topics, hopefully grouping them together, and then being able to ask them directly to Samir. So Samir, I'm now going to transfer control of the screen to you, so bear with me.
While you're doing that, Peter, thank you. And thank you, Saudi Exchange, for inviting Almarai to talk about what our ESG journey has been, what we have been focused on, and more importantly, why are we doing it? And I think we'll touch a bit on, since it's a workshop sort of scenario, a bit on what is ESG. Before I go too far, assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to be talking to you all. And as Peter said, if we don't have enough time towards the end to accommodate all the questions, we will make a note and we will come back to you with answers. And we are more than happy to sort of connect. What I can do now is I can try and share my screen. And let me know when you see it. Hopefully you see it. Okay, I see thumbs up. One more thing I'm going to do is, how can I turn off my video so my bandwidth does not go bad, and at least you are able to hear me. I'll come back with my video on once we are on the other side. Let me go in the full screen mode. Peter, obviously you're the gatekeeper. If I drop off or if my screen gets stuck, do let me know. I'm on the first screen. First of all is sort of a disclaimer on what what we are here for. It's for the information presented is for information purpose only. There are quite a few forward-looking statements. What we are trying to do is reflect the current status, and situation changes. We continue to reevaluate our material issues from ESG sustainability point of view. So as we do things, things will look a bit different as time passes, years passes, and we request no further distribution of the content without Almarai's consent. Let me see if I can go to the next slide. Oh, there you go. So the focus, as I said, is ESG. Most of you are familiar with ESG/sustainability is. Some of you may not. So I thought it's good for us to sort of ground ourselves in what it is. Why a business should think about ESG? Is there really a business case for for us to embark on such a journey? What has been Almarai's journey thus far? That's what we'll focus on as well. And last but not the least is what has been or what have been Almarai's accomplishments. And as Peter suggested, towards the end we'll sort of open up for Q&A. So ESG, as most of you know, is for what? Sustainability, as Peter say, ESG is one of the most talked about subject nowadays. But what is it that we are trying to sustain? I'll be lying if I say much bigger than sustaining a business. We are looking at individual sustainable business. At least that's what the focus of this discussion is. So think of sustainable business as a stool with three legs, and three legs themselves are environment, social, and governance. So think about a stool, and one of the leg is missing. The table cannot obviously stand. So think of it from that point of view. We need E, S, and G to make sure a business is sustainable and sustaining business for the future. Almarai, for example, has been in business for over 45 years, and our journey on sustainability is to ensure that Almarai continues to thrive, not just 10, 20, 40, 50, but 100 years in the future. And that's what the bottom line is about. We will focus a bit more on environment and social during this discussion, as you all know. That's going to be the focus. So what is a sustainable business? I think most of you have, are aware of Brundtland Commission's very initial definition of sustainability, running a business today that will not be detrimental to future generation. So basically having a net zero or net positive environmental impact and ensuring that the communities that we serve are more inclusive, just, and thriving. Because without thriving communities, obviously, FMCGs such as ourselves do not have a business. So, when you look at ESG, we as a business think of who are the stakeholders for our business and why does it matter to them. So we're going to go one at a time, sort of give you an overall understanding on why sustainability sort of makes sense. So I'm sure you all are familiar with Vision 2030 of Government of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And you're also aware of UN Sustainable Development Goals. 17 of these goals are incorporated in Vision 2030, as we all know. So all of them are sort of adopted as is. So you talk about Vision 2030 or talk about Sustainable Development Goals. It's a big statement, as if you see it the right way from the government. G20 summit in November 2020, the king himself sort of led the presidency, and safeguarding the planet has been one of the key 3 pillars where the focus was on circular carbon economy. That talks volume about where the country is and how country thinks of sustainability and ensuring that environment and social sustainability is ensured. When you look at consumers, so this is independent research done by BCG. Consumers in GCC are more aware and ready to go green. So 70% of Saudi Arabian consumers, as you look at it, our business is in all GCC countries. So obviously this talks about other countries as well. But on an average, 70% of Saudi consumers are ready to go green, and consumers are willing to pay more when it comes to, willing to pay premium prices for sustainable product. What is key is communication. It needs to be communicated if your product, stands out from sustainability point of view. When that is communicated clearly, consumers in this country, in this market, are willing to pay that premium price. Last but not the least is consumers are sort of willing to adopt when accessible and reasonably priced, green products. So 93% of surveyed GCC respondents will consider buying products with natural ingredient and recyclable packaging. So think about it. We live in a highly globalized, socialized world. When something happens in one part of the world, the information does not just stay in that part of the world. It translates and transfers very quickly. And consumers in this part of the world are very savvy that way, trying to understand what's happening in the rest of the world and catching up the best they can. Another key stakeholder for us as FMCG and most of us as businesses is investors. So here's a graph sort of showing emerging market, Morgan Stanley Capital International emerging market. How has it been performing? So that's like an orange line or yellow line, depending on which color you see. And the black line, the one on top, is for the same emerging markets, but businesses who are focused on ESG. So on an average, if you look at ESG-focused businesses are outperforming 10%, so 10% better performance overall. So investors have sort of a skin in the game as well, that they're going to get better return if they focus on ESG-focused businesses. And I'm sure most of you are aware of UN Principle for Responsible Investments. So there are signatories, hundreds of them, who have committed to the tune of 120 trillion US dollar. That's how much funds investors have committed to invest in ESG/sustainability minded businesses. So businesses who are doing good, that's how much the funds are available, so to speak. In many of my discussions within the financial community, what I learn is there is a demand and supply gap. There is a tremendous amount of supply of funds if you're ESG minded business. But there is not enough supply in terms of businesses who are willing to take up that. A quick example coming to my mind is Saudi Electric Company, who went ahead with the green sukuk last year or a few months before that, and it was obviously oversubscribed. And if you look at the borrowing cost, just the borrowing cost, they're saving millions of dollars every year. So sustainability, obviously the traditional way of looking at it is cost, but I would not be talking about sustainability if it does not make a business sense. So this is from investors' point of view. So ESG, as for Almarai, is a strategic imperative. It helps us reduce the risk, boost bottom line, and attract and retain top talent, customers, and consumers. So how, reducing risk, my intent is not to sort of go through things line by line, but, Vision 2030 and UN SDGs we looked at. So there are increasing expectations from businesses, increasing cost of, procuring resources. Electricity is not getting cheaper. Fuel is not getting cheaper. Waste disposal is not getting cheaper. And, most of us who are associated with business sort of realize that's a reality. And guess what? Your ESG journey focuses on that, reducing that. The regulatory requirements are changing. Government has, Saudi Arabian government has committed to 2060 carbon neutrality. So guess what? More policies are coming. Waste management regulations are in place. They are going to come up with more regulation on how to manage not just the industrial waste, but post-consumer waste as well, which for FMCGs like ourselves is going to be very important. And investors' requirements. Investors are more, savvy, and not just savvy because they are focused on environment and sustainability. Of course they are, but more importantly, they want to understand the business that I'm putting my money in. Is it going to be sustainable? Is it going to thrive for 10, 20, 30 years for sustained return rather than somebody who's going to give me maybe reasonable return in the short term, but long term, not sure. Boosted bottom line. So how I would sort of look at it is when a business is a front runner in terms of doing the right thing on ESG, the brand reputation improves substantially. When the brand reputation improves, it sort of ensures that you are able to outcompete your competition, and you are increasing your market share. We talked about reduced resource cost. We talked about there's an increased demand when it comes to consumer for efficient products, and employees are more interested to associate themselves with a brand that stands for real values. And this is happening and this is growing, almost on a daily or weekly basis across the world, not just this part of the world. And as Peter said, to start with, ESG, obviously we are talking about in Saudi Arabian context, but this is a global, this is a top buzzword at this stage globally. Almost every business globally is talking about this. So it does help us, attract and retain newer customers and new consumers. So attracting is important as well as retaining the existing consumers and customers. So when you put it all together, what you're looking for is have best-in-class strategy. Now this is focused on Almarai. We have engaged an accountable leadership. We'll talk about it. We'll see that how, and we have engaged an accountable board. That's what it is in a nutshell. Sustainability, as Peter was sort of alluding earlier, better every day. It talks about journey. It does not talk about we are better today or we are best today and so be it. It's a journey. And different businesses can be at a different level of evolution, and that's okay. As long as we are on the right track, as long as our head is in the right place in terms of what it is that we want to accomplish. So, think about Almarai. Sustainability and environment, social governance has been ingrained in Almarai's culture from the inception. Almarai plays a crucial role, very major role when it comes to food security of not just Saudi Arabia, but also many countries in the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council countries. Almarai has worked for over a decade to improve resource efficiency. How can we produce more with less? That has been the focus. Bring less resources in, produce more product. So your byproducts waste is much less. Your resource efficiency is much higher. That's what we have always been focused on. When it comes to our formal ESG journey, we obviously started work in 2017 when we sort of brought everything that we were doing together. We had our 6 pillars. We focused on our initial sustainability journey. 2018 is when the department that I had was instituted, and that's when we published our first report with what our initial strategy had been. At that stage, what we realized is there is a need for us to have a more comprehensive strategy. Despite those 6 pillars covering all, we thought it's a good idea for us to understand what our stakeholders want and need and expect from us as a leading FMCG business. So we engaged with external stakeholders as well as our internal stakeholders, our employees in different functions and all, to understand what makes sense from their perspective. And then we sort of developed a 5-year strategy and published our second report. 2020 is when we finalized and published our 5-year sustainability strategy along with the target, which, by the way, we'll review it very shortly. 2021, last year. So, until 2020, we were in a process of putting hard copy paper report. And, when we thought it's a good idea for us to go virtual, the whole world is going virtual. And, we were obviously in the middle of the COVID situation, and virtual reaches more people much faster. So now 100% of our report is virtual. We stopped publishing any paper copies. We are also evaluating, our GHG baseline, making sure that what we have in mind and what have we been working on, it continues to make sense. We are working on developing comprehensive ESG policies, and we are supporting our overseas trading entities in Egypt and Jordan sort of develop their own sustainability strategy. And as you see, this entry sort of repeats sustainability materiality review. So we committed in 2019, and this is sort of a tip for us all. Once you know what are your material issues from sustainability ESG point of view, you do need to go back at a regular interval to go in and check and make sure that they are still relevant to your business. They are still relevant to your internal and external stakeholders. So that's what we are working on as we speak. Coming on to Almarai's overall strategy. So as Peter sort of outlined, better every day. That's our overarching strategy. We understand this is a journey. We understand where we start, and we know where we want to go, and we want to ensure that we continue to improve every day. And Almarai believes the world can be a better place if we all are committed. And this is a part of our commitment. This is not a competitive place, a competing place when it comes to ESG and sustainability. We are focused on sharing our experience, learning from you all as you have been embarking or have embarked on your journeys. And let's share so there is a good synergy, and we learn from each other, and we end up at a better place rather than trying to sort of go on our own way. So coming back, sort of making it more touchy and feely, environment, social, and governance. So three key pillars that we focused on: caring for people, protecting planet, and producing responsible product. They speak for themselves. On the next slide, we'll look at what are those material issues. So my intent is not to read line by line. I'm sure you all can. So when it comes to caring for people, who are these people? People are obviously our employees, our consumers, and our customers. We want to make sure that we are providing nutritious and well-being sort of nutritious product and well-being for our consumers. We are looking after health and safety of our employees. We have diverse and potent talent pool that continues to support Almarai's aspirations for thriving, expanding business in this part of the world and beyond. And we want to make sure that we are part of the community. We continue to invest in the community. Protecting planet, what's no-brainer is water, electricity, energy, packaging reduction, managing waste. What many of you may not know is the agriculture, which is very essential part of Almarai. As you all know, we are the world's largest vertically integrated dairy company, and so we have all the way from producing or farming alfalfa for our cows to feeding them, milking them, bringing it to our dairy and have different dairy ingredients. And then on top of that, we have poultry, infant formula business, and bakery business. So these are the main sort of chunks of our business, which sort of tells us why agriculture is essential. And when it comes to responsible product, animal welfare, making sure the animals that are part of our value chain are treated fairly. The quality is number one. The quality you can trust is our overarching theme when it comes to Almarai's business. So that's that and the safe, reliable product is what we are proud of providing to our millions of consumers. We serve over 12 million product pieces every day, today and tomorrow and the day after, and we got to keep doing it, and we want to do it ethically by making sure that product raw material we source are compliant with our ethical sourcing practices. Now, this is just to sort of give you an overview. The intent is not for me to go through every target, but look at the first column that talks about what are those 12 material issues are, and then every issue, depending on our internal and external stakeholders' perspective, we have derived 25 targets. And the last column is where I want you to focus on what says EVP, Executive Vice President. So every target is aligned with EVP of the particular business or department, and they are accountable. So going back to my earlier point about accountable and embedding, that's how we make sure that business is the one that's leading the charge and making things happen to make sure Almarai continues to thrive in the communities. And the same goes with protecting planet. Water, packaging, climate, waste, and sustainable agriculture. Mind you, climate is such a big, which is why sort of it shows you how many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 targets we have on climate perspective. And we have EVPs again responsible for every one of those targets, and we stay on top. Our CEO takes a charge. He tries to understand what's progressing, where are the bottlenecks, are there challenges, and as and when they arise, we make sure we work collectively as a business, as a one big organism to sort of address those challenges and producing responsible product. So we have some really, really good news when it comes to this pillar, which I'm going to share shortly. But again, the intent is not to go through every target. I'm sure you can read yourself. What it means when you put it all together is a regional ESG ranking agency, ESG Invest, which Peter sort of outlined as he was opening up, ranked us number one. So this was ranked in 2020 based on our 2019 report. Now we are pledged to continue to improve our ESG performance, ESG scores. We heard, we are still waiting for a formal update on ESG Invest's website, but we have retained that number one position. Now, this is not, we are number one in the food and beverage sector. We are number one when it comes to all businesses listed on Tata World. So it's, obviously it's a big statement, and it's a privilege for us. And we take our responsibility very seriously when it comes to that. And us sort of sharing our journey and trying to learn from everyone is part of their responsibility. So it seems we will retain number one rank. Obviously, in the next couple of weeks, we'll get a bit more update on that. However, think about better every day. If you were number one in 2019, why do you want to keep going more? But our goal has been to become better every day. So what we're looking for is we're also exploring global rating agencies like Dow Jones Sustainability Index, Morgan Stanley Capital International. They have ESG screening and Sustainalytics, and try to understand what else is there globally. How can we learn from others, and how can we be better every day? So that's the focus when it comes to ESG ranking as well. Now, some of the key accomplishments. I kept talking about 3 pillars, 12 material issues, and 25 targets. What I want to sort of disclose, and this is the first time that we are disclosing this publicly, that we accomplished as Almarai 5 targets. So all our manufacturing sites are Global Food Safety Initiative certified. So that ensures the highest quality of product and the safest product that's there to offer. Our dairy farm and dairy operations is globally the first farm to receive animal welfare certification from NSF International. So think about it. Number one globally. We are not talking about region or country now. Within Saudi Arabia, we are the first business to certify all of our poultry farming and operations to global animal wellness standards by NSF International. So this talks volume, these 2 items. The remaining 2 focus on the next 2, focusing on planet, is 100% of all sales depot cold stores are CFC free. So CFC stands for chlorofluorocarbon, a prime ozone depleting substances. So this is us going beyond what is required by law, and we have ensured that all our cold stores are CFC free. We have increased fuel efficiency of our SDNL, sales, distribution, and logistics vehicles, by 10%. Now, 10% was the goal, so we are outlining. When we start measuring, it's beyond that. Our goal, our intent is to be better every day. Just because we reach 10%, we don't want to think, and we don't want to take it easy. So that journey has continued. And this year's report, when you look at it, when we publish, I think it's going to be 14th of April is when it's going to go live. You will see the actual number, how much improvement there is. Another, from communities perspective, from caring for people perspective, one of the goals had been caring for people. And caring for people, 2.5 million healthy servings donation is what we set ourselves up for. Now, mind you, this goal is for 2025, and we just ended year 2021 with more than 2.7 million healthy servings. So we are way beyond, and we will revise this goal more than likely, and we're going to go, much higher number. I don't want to sort of spell out anything right now, but you'll see that changing soon. Some other accomplishments. Again, here my intent is not to sort of go line by line, and I'm keeping my eyes on the watch as well. So these are the key targets. But if you sort of summarize from protecting planet perspective, all our poultry, farming, sales, distribution, logistics sites are ISO 14001, which is environmental management systems, by the way, certified. We have reduced 7% of water consumption, total waste reduced by 7%. So it's not just we are diverting waste away from landfill, we are focusing on not generating waste in the first place. So 7% reduction and overall 40% diversion of waste away from the landfill versus our 2018 benchmark. And recycling rate has gone up. Our food waste diversion is 33%. We have avoided so much plastic, in thousands of tons from entering consumer stream. Last but not the least is the whole energy part. We have embarked on the solar energy and renewable energy journey for last more than 3 years. And this is all before and much earlier than the carbon neutrality target was talked about in this country. So think about it. It's been a journey that we have been on for a while now. Same sort of level of accomplishments when it comes to producing responsible product. We are one of the first businesses in the region to have cage-free housing for chicken and resting areas with housing for cows. And we are all our production sites, as I said, are recognized food safety management system standards. In caring for people. Our farming, sales, distribution, and logistics, again, going back to safety management systems, that's what we have certification for. 350,000 plus hours of training. So as most of us know, it's hourly that we sort of pay our employees, and we are willing to spend so many hours to make sure our employees are up to the notch. They get the right sort of training. Over 300 organizations that we engage with within this country and around the GCC to support and through donations and sponsorships. And last but not the least, which needs to be highlighted, is the pandemic preparedness certification. We have been the first company in the world to be certified pandemic prepared. It's very important, as you all know, in the middle of COVID. And this is, if somebody thinks this is the last pandemic and we are done with it, then obviously we are not thinking the right way. We think there's going to be more challenges that can keep coming, but us putting food on the dining table of our consumers is not just the right thing for the business, but it's also part of food security. So unless we are prepared to deal with any pandemic or any interruptions, we cannot do so, which is why we have been the first one to sort of do so. And that's about it. I'm going to stop sharing, Peter, and you can sort of take it away. How do I do this? Oh, right there, stop sharing. And I'm going to, hopefully you heard me without interruptions, Peter?
I heard you loud and clear, Samir.
Excellent.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, look, first of all, thank you very much for that fantastic presentation. I've got to say, I'm impressed. It's quite clearly you guys are doing a hell of a lot and have been doing quite a lot for quite a long time, actually. Really back from 2017 and some fantastic achievements. And it looks like things are going to just progressing impressively, at least for the next, 2022, 2025 and beyond. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I have some questions that have come through on the chat and the Q&A, but also some on the email, interestingly. So maybe if we can start with some of the email questions before we move over to the Q&A. So one of the questions we have here is around quite clearly sustainability, ESG topics. You can see that from the presentation, right across the whole organization. I mean, you're looking at every business line, everything that you really do, see, it appears to have some sort of an ESG sustainability flavor to it. So, first question is actually, how did you start thinking about, what was the kind of start to the thinking? And the second question, which maybe links with that, is where does sustainability fit into the organization? Is it part of the IR division? Does it sit with its own division? Just to get an idea of the geography of sustainability within Almarai.
Thanks. So listen, two questions: where it started and where does it fit? Let me answer first one. Almarai's motto over the years, over a decade, has been quality you can trust. That's what we have been focused on. And when we speak quality, we are not only focusing on quality of products, the quality of products, services, and what Almarai is, and holistically. That's what we have been focused on. And when we were thinking, and obviously it's been a long time since Almarai has, set itself as a market lead when it comes to producing reliable, quality, safe product. What we started thinking of is what additional we can offer to our consumers, and that's where our ex-CEO came up with an idea that we got to not just stop, we got to continue to be better every day. And when that was the focus, we started looking at, beyond the region, beyond the country that we are in, and what are some of our peers? What are the multinationals such as P&G and Unilever and Danone and Nestle and Coca-Cola and Pepsi are doing? And what can we learn from them? And obviously that inspired us to look at a much broader spectrum. And the bottom line is it's about the business. It's not about anything else, but it's about sustaining Almarai. That's what we have been focused on. And how can we ensure that our consumers, our stakeholders, our regulators, our investors continue to see Almarai as shining star, a North Star, so to speak, and continue to have interest, continue to invest in, continue to consume our product. So that has been the thought on how we sort of got around to thinking. In terms of where sustainability fits within the company, it's everywhere. The focus has been sustainability. It's not this is the business. And by the way, this is what we do on sustainability, this is how we do a business. This is how, so sustainability is practically, as you sort of started asking questions, it's ingrained in every aspect. So obviously, there was a reason why I did not put names of all EVPs, but EVPs of poultry, bakery, dairy, farming, and the arable farming out in US and Argentina, our EVP of quality, regulatory, health, safety, security, sustainability. Everyone, including our CEO, obviously, you go back in the last 4 years report, hear what the CEO is saying. Here's what the chairman is saying. It's in it, which is why the sustainability department as such is very small and nimble. It's more like a consultant within the business, but the business is the one that sort of runs sustainability, so to speak. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, Samir. Fascinating. We've got another question regarding, I guess, materiality. I'm definitely not an ESG expert, but I imagine doing materiality reviews requires quite a lot of effort for the organization. So maybe some of your thinking and how you approached that materiality back then. And the review that you, I think, said are doing or have done very recently, and how you approach that.
Yeah, no, I think a great question. I think spot on how. So whoever is asking this question, they already have things, their mind on how am I going to do my journey, which is how one should think, and I admire that. So how we sort of looked at it. Obviously, we have had help from outside. We retain expert consultants to help us with this, but our internal thinking has been exactly sit with have a right kind of people in the room, list out who all your stakeholders, internal as well as external. How deep do you want to go? What and then look at your external peers as well. What are your peers talking about in terms of what are the key topics? Everyone's talking about carbon. Everyone is talking about water, reducing plastic, reducing waste going to landfill, and start making a laundry list, so to speak. Talk to your employees. Talk to what are you hearing from the government? What are you hearing from the investments folks, and such as who we are talking about right now. And then you have a laundry list. You have your stakeholders. And don't try and be smart. Sometimes it's good not to be smart. Go and ask them, engage with them, ask them. So we literally asked every one of that stakeholder. We identified a list of folks within that stakeholder, and we said, hey, can you tell us what matters more versus less? In which area is your priority versus the other? And then we sort of came up with, sort of a heat map on which goes right on the top. And from there, we said, these are the top 12 that make sense to us, and that's what we're going to focus on. So and again, as I said, every business is unique. One size would not fit. But if you look at the common thinking, the baseline thinking, and you sort of approach it from that point of view, I think you will get, end up in the right spot.
Okay, very interesting. Stakeholders, of course, shareholders are also stakeholders.
Yes.
So I wonder how the ESG team, how you, head of sustainability, work with the IR team, and again, on the ground, are you in each other's meetings? I mean, how often are you getting questions from investors, be they international investors or local, regional investors? How does that interaction happen?
Yeah. So my answer is not going to be perfect, especially for last couple of years. Things have been different in terms of us being more virtual. If you look at 2020 and earlier, we used to have annual sort of investor summit, and sustainability ESG had been a core part of it. And we were going and sharing, what it is that we do and why does it matter. So the shareholders, obviously, as you said, we call, it's all part of investors who are sort of giving their own hard-earned money for us to do the right thing, for us to, run the business. And so if I have to sort of draw a graph, in last couple of years is when we have seen increasing amount of investors and shareholders asking ESG questions, more from international investors than there is from the investors in this part of the world. But it's been right front and center. We have engaged with investors almost equally as the governments, so to speak, who are also almost leading the charge when it comes to ESG. So increasing investment it's been accelerating quite a bit now.
Okay. And a question just along those lines from somebody is pretty direct question: is sustainability a risk or an opportunity for investors?
Yeah, wow, that's a good one. Thanks, Peter. Sustainability is only a risk if the business does not see an opportunity. As I was sort of helping you understand during the presentation, it helps you with your top line. It helps you with your brand reputation, recruit new customers, consumers, retain your employee. And employee retention, it's just as a tagline, but it helps so much when it comes to your cost. Employee turnover costs tremendous amount of money to businesses, to retrain and get everyone sort of catching up, and business, may not be able to keep up the priorities and whatnot. So it's a top line, resources including employees, human resources, energy. So you're producing more product, more services with less resources. So bottom line is going to swell quite a bit. So it is an opportunity. One word I would say is, two things I would say is communication is key. If you're doing the right thing but not communicating, it's not going to help you get the enough return. If you are first mover, or if you're one of the first movers, then the brand reputation, increasing market share, all that will apply to you. If you are like 100 businesses and you are business number 93, 94, everyone has already gone out of the gate and you're slowly starting the journey, it's already a bit late. And for you to sort of get return on the investment you do in terms of brand reputation, increase market share, it diminishes as you keep sort of getting left behind, so to speak.
Okay. I wonder if you could expand maybe a little bit around that communication piece, right? So how are you guys communicating to the wider world? I mean, what are some of the channels that you use?
Yeah. So I'll be honest. Almarai has not been that proactive when it comes to communicating thus far. And there are reasons for that. We want to be mindful of our journey, our accomplishments. To answer your question, I think when it comes to communication, you need two sets of communication: internal as well as external. Your employees, and we got 33,000 employees in the country and over 40,000 globally. Your employees can be your best ambassador. Picture a situation where Almarai employee is sitting in a social setting with a family and a topic of plastic or carbon or climate comes up. If we have not empowered or informed our employee the right way in terms of why this subject matter is important to Almarai, what is Almarai doing, that person may not be able to explain well. We are not talking about driving a propaganda, but just to understand what is Almarai doing, and by the way, we do this and this. So if you're sitting in that setting, 10 other people listen to you, and they go out with an impression, versus if the person does not have any understanding. He said, well, I don't know, I'm sure we are doing something, and that leads, oh well, wait a minute, seems like Almarai is not doing enough, or any one of that businesses. So keep that in perspective from an internal communication point of view. External as well, engaging with the stakeholders that I talked about, engaging in social media and on the right platform. Every business is different, so to speak. You need to understand who are your target audience and sort of engage there. If you look at last 3 years of our Ramadan sort of commercial, so to speak, which have not been commercial, by the way, it's more about social messages. We have been focused on food waste. Why? So I'm not sure how many of the attendees have seen those, but search for them on YouTube. It's there. 33% or 30% of our food ends up being waste. So the latest commercial was around that, and we are saying, listen, why is this? Think about it. Why don't we just take as much as we need, so to speak, and focus on reducing waste? So things like that, and you need to hit the right tone, and you want to make sure at some point to embed sustainability communication in your product and in your brand sort of engagements as well.
Okay, great. Two quick fire questions, if we can, just to sort of wrap things up. Sustainability, ESG, a trend or here to stay?
Well, as I said, sustainability, you are sustaining what? And we are not talking about go and hug a tree or start putting renewable energy or whatnot. One has to focus on the business. What matters to me? So sustainability is here to stay, but sustainability is focused on energy. Sustainability is focused moving to social sustainability, on communities. The areas may change, but you're trying to sustain a business. So how can a business survive without thinking about its sustainability? So which topics you focus on can change. Some environmental, topics can rise up. Some social can go down, and that can keep playing. But every business, if you look at a gas station at a corner, they have a sustainability plan as well. It's just that it's not quite explicit, not quite written. They have been sort of in a business for over a decade, so they are surviving. Obviously, their focus is very heavy on economic sustainability, on governance, not as much on environment and the social side. But if the day a competition comes and other businesses are doing better, and you see the market share sort of shifting that way, if you're not doing the right thing, guess what? You will not sustain. Your business will not sustain. That's what it is. So I would definitely not say it's trend. It's here to stay. It has been here. It has been here for a long time.
Okay. And the final question: what is the most challenging part of your ESG day?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
What is the most challenging part of the role? What is the most of being the head of sustainability? What would you say are the most challenging aspects of that?
Yeah, so here, most challenging. I would not say most challenging, but something that takes a bit of time is, and this happens in every business when you're starting a journey. Every business focuses on return of investment of capital. Our shareholders, our investors invest in the business, and we want to make sure that they get the right return. And when you look at prioritizing what to do, and when you are one of the first businesses out of the gate doing the right thing, then there is a bit of internal churn to make sure that we are doing the right thing. If, let's say, and I'll give you an example of climate change. If every business in Saudi Arabia is starting to focus on climate change, one of the last businesses coming on board said, hey, wait a minute, I got to do it. Everyone is doing it. But when you are the front runner, should I prioritize climate change, or should I prioritize water scarcity? Or should I prioritize making sure my community or my employee, my consumers, the product safety is high on priority? So some of those things, and that brings us back to the materiality survey, which is why it's important for us to go back every couple of years to go and check that whatever we thought were important in a certain way are still relevant to those stakeholders. And so it's an ongoing sort of fun of a journey to be there.
Okay. Samir, I mean, we've got a bunch of questions still to answer, but I think we're approaching the end, or we're at the end. So I think let's call it a day there. But from me personally, from the exchange, and I think probably from the 50 odd people that attended the main part of the workshop, thank you very much. I mean, super insightful, and your experiences evidenced through the various awards and initiatives that Almarai are involved in. So thank you very much, and good luck with the rest of the ESG journey.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Do reach out to us. We are more than happy to share what we're doing. As I said, it's not a competitive world, it's a synergistic world. The more we share, the more we grow collectively. That's what we sort of go back. And Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.